For a free 2-hour ebook audiobook titled 12 Easy Ways Pilots Get in Trouble, visit avtutorials.com. Now, let's join Steve and Russ.
Welcome to Quick Pilot Topics, episode number 8. I'm Steve, an airline pilot, flight instructor, flight engineer, previous examiner, and an A&P mechanic. I've got my brother Russ here, and he asks great questions about flying. So, Russ, fire away.
Hi, everybody. So, I have to say, landing the plane in turbulent, gusting conditions is really tough.
It is, especially for lower-time pilots. It takes experience and hard work to establish the stick and rudder skills needed to control the airplane with every shifting gust.
Have you ever had a situation where the winds were gusting so severely or turbulence was so bad that you abandoned the approach?
Oh, absolutely. It's happened plenty of times. One time when I was flying charter operations in a Piper Aztec, I was positioning the airplane to a field to pick up a passenger, and a cold front had moved through with localized snow showers and winds were gusting above 35 knots. It was nasty, just bumpy as heck. On the base leg at about 600 feet AGL, turbulence simultaneously rocked the wings, I'd say about 20 degrees to the right, and airspeed dropped off instantly by 15 knots.
Wow.
Yeah, without any delay, I initiated a go-around. I added full power, established a climb at the proper speed and as best as possible, and I raised the landing gear. Once I had the airplane flying safely and climbing, I called the tower telling the controller that I was going around. Actually, I remember the controller acting surprised, like he was saying, "Really? Why?" I sensed the tone in his voice, and I told him that the wind shear was the cause. I brought the airplane around for another attempt, and conditions were within safe margins, so I was able to land.
Wow. I bet that's happened to you at the airline, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's happened to any pilot who flies professionally or who flies a lot. An essential key is being ready for a go-around if necessary.
So, being prepared for a go-around is really essential. What if you don't go around, but instead continue with the approach and landing? What does the pilot do to manage bad turbulence and gusting conditions?
First, a power-on approach should be made at an airspeed that's higher than normal approach speed. This will give you greater control of the airplane as it gets hit by each gust. It'll also give you an airspeed margin with a sudden loss of airspeed due to wind shear. But don't keep the airspeed too high. If you maintain a speed that's too high down to the flare, it could result in floating and landing long. You don't want that. If crosswind is present, give some thought as to how to apply aileron and rudder during the flare as well.
So, what airspeed should be flown?
First, consult the manufacturer's recommendation. They might have specific guidance for determining airspeed additives in gusting condition. One technique, in the absence of the manufacturer's guidance, is to add 1/2 of the gust factor to your approach speed. So, if your approach speed is, say, 70 knots and winds are 10 gusting to 25, this is a 15-knot gust factor. So, take half of that, which is 7 or 8 knots, and add it to your normal approach speed of 70 knots, and that'll give you a final speed of 77 or 78.
Wow, smart. So, how about flaps? It seems that the airplane is easier to control with less than full flaps.
Yeah, that's generally true. Again, consult the manufacturer's information about flap use, but generally partial flaps will enable the airplane to be more controllable, and the pitch attitude might be higher than normal depending on the aircraft type. If this is the case, less of a pitch change during the flare will be necessary, making the landing easier.
Okay, so airspeed additives and partial flaps. What about power?
If possible, avoid rapid and large changes of power. Being overenthusiastic with the throttle could cause you to be working harder than necessary. In short, you could be adding to an unstable condition with large throttle changes. Of course, do what you have to do to maintain good pitch and power, but you might not to be excessive about it. During the flare, keep some power in until the main gear touches down. Again, keeping some power in is a stabilizing factor. If you were to cut power during the flare before touchdown, the gusting conditions could cause a sudden rapid descent rate. So keep a little bit of power in there, but not too much. Again, you don't want to float.
Ooh, I'm exhausted thinking about this.
Right.
I guess we're glad to be back on the ground.
Well, not so fast. And again, this is where a lot of pilots give up. They figure, okay, I'm on the ground. My work here is done. Time to take a mental vacation. But that's not the case. During the rollout, be careful not to apply forward elevator because this could cause a wheelbarrowing tendency. And while you don't want to keep the elevator aft either, because this can cause the airplane to bounce or become airborne again, it really takes a fine touch to establish the right amount of elevator to keep the airplane in the proper attitude on the ground. And then finally, it's also important on taxi-in, think to yourself that you're still flying the airplane. The flight's not over yet. Be sure to apply aileron and elevator correction depending on the wind direction to avoid a wing suddenly lifting. Just remember, the flight isn't over until the engine is shut down and the plane is tied down.
That's right.
Right. So that about does it. Awesome question. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We hope you join us on the next episode of Quick Pilot Topics.
Visit avtutorials.com for a free 2-hour ebook audiobook titled 12 Easy Ways Pilots Get in Trouble. Remember to listen next week, and happy flying!